researcher, bug hunter, and backend developer. He got acknowledged by various companies like Google, Zogo, Redmi, and many more. He is the leader of OWASP Sastra chapter. Over to you, Abhishek.
So thanks, Rakesh bro. Is my voice clear?
Yeah, audible.
Yeah, okay. So I have thought to go in English. Are you all comfortable with that? Is that fine for everyone?
Guys, if language problem, I mean, it's okay with both English and Tamil. So, if
If you have
you
any
anyone,
problem, you can let us know. You can go with Tamil if everyone is okay, so that there is no issues. So some people are asking in English, so let's go with English itself.
yes. So please bear with us. Thank you. You can continue.
So is my screen visible?
Yeah,
So, okay, a very good evening to everybody who have gathered here. Today, we will be discussing about the OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities. So, many might have been heard about what is OWASP, but might not know about what it is exactly. I will be explaining it. I will be explaining it clearly in this session. So, So I am Abhishek. I am doing first year CSE in Shastra University. I am a cybersecurity researcher and a bug hunter. I also do backend development. I lead a OS chapter in Shastra University and I am a CTF player. So this is a short intro about me. So now let's get into the main topic. So first of all, what is OWASP? So to explain it, so to expand web open web application security projects, it's a open source community and a NGO which helps in development in application security. They have been helping the community since long years. Like they build a lot of tools and applications for the improvement in the security. And what is OWASP Top 10? So that community regularly publishes some of the highly risk involved attacks and vulnerabilities, and it has been displayed regularly, and it has been put as the top 10 vulnerabilities. And that, so I will be walking through all the top 10 vulnerabilities. So sec- So everything I teach here is only for the educational purpose, and Diamond Web community is not responsible for any kind of consequences. So everyone likes to have real motivation, right? But that is not real motivation actually. You should be passionate about what you are going to learn and what you are going to practice or something. So that's the real motivation. You should have your own interest to get into this field. Then only you can shine very good. So you can follow that. And 1 hour will be a very short time to explain all these vulnerabilities. So I will be going through a basic walkthrough on each and every vulnerabilities. The explanation will be very very simple so that you can understand what the attack is, and then you can start your own research so that it will actually help you a lot when you are moving in further. And then we will open it up for questions so that you can clarify everything which I thought here. So first of all, injection attacks. As when you are going to learn an attack, just take this tip. Just take the name and search for the meanings. So for the injection attack, as the name suggests, we are going to inject something, and it is going to give something advantages to the attacker. So in this way, you can actually simply break down the attack and learn it easily. On an injection attack, user sends an input. So user will be sending an input to the server, and the server will directly fetch some data which is helpful to the attacker and give it to the attacker. So this is like injecting something which will give the data which is advantageous. So some of the attacks which are involved in injection are SQL injection, command injection, host header injection, LDAP injection, like that. there are a lot of attacks which can occur in injection. So basically, SQL injection is like we all know that there's a database called SQL database, right? So so for accessing the database, there are certain queries which will be used to fetch the data. We will be maliciously injecting some of the queries into the server so that it will give us extra advantageous data which is not meant to be shared. So that kind of data will be shared. Then the command injection is like we all know that every system has a command prompt, and where we can execute every commands, like it will be working like administrator. So in some cases, attacker could easily inject a command. So on that case, it comes under command injection. There is also another attack called host header. So it is simply like there is a header called host header. You can see that in the request. So basically, a web application, sorry, basically a web application works in request response mechanism. So request and response both has headers. So in the request, there is a header called host, and there will be the input will be injected at that particular position. So it is called host header injection. And there is another attack called LDAP injection. So it is like directory. It will give a direct access to the particular directory which is containing some of the sensitive data kind of. So this is the basic thing about injection attacks. And next is broken authentication. So we would have all heard about the word auth, right? It is like getting identified, like it is like getting identified to be a particular person. There is difference between authentication and authorization. Let me explain it. Okay, the word authentication is like verifying your identity, while authorization is like a system is checking if you have the particular permission to access something. So this is the difference between authentication and authorization. So this attack suggests that broken authentication, right? So on the process of verifying the identity, the application fails to properly identify the particular user, so that the attacker gets advantages and gets access to some of the sensitive data of other users, which is not supposed to be shared. Some of the attack which comes under under this topic is like session management flaws. Like whenever a session is created, there's some unique string which is stored in the browser of the user. So it can be hijacked or tampered in some way. So that because since the authentication is broken, attacker could tamper a session token and get advantages through that. Social engineering attacks also come under this. So due to broken authentication, data breaches also occur, since this there is a broken field to put the sensitive data out. So this will be under the topic broken authentication. Sensitive data exposure. As I mentioned in injection attack, whenever you are going to learn a new kind of attack, just learn the name first. Sensitive data. This attack will particularly held upon sensitive data which is getting exposed to the public. So basically, sensitive data, some valuable data exposes, making something visible. So putting up some valuable data in public. So that is what the name suggests. So sensitive data is getting leaked by some means. This is basically occurring due to the improper building of applications. Many developers fail to get the proper awareness on building applications because they usually don't know about which is sensitive and which is not sensitive. Let me take an example to explain this scenario. Let's take email ID. Many would be thinking that email ID is not a sensitive data, but email ID is actually a sensitive data which will leak a lot of information. For example, let's say your college email ID is going to be leaked, right? Many of the colleges have lot number of students, so they keep a logic in the password and give that to the respective students. So so if a email ID, if a college email ID is leaked and the password is guessable, so all the data under college portal is put into this. So generally college portals will be having all your governmental proof, your educational proofs, and everything, like it is like a heavy data breach. So we should actually make aware of people, like which are the sensitive data, and so that these kind of attacks can be highly prevented, and it will be very useful actually. leaking of uh, Leaking of educational qualification documents and governmental proof documents will actually lead to a huge issue. So awareness is actually necessary for them. So next we'll go to the attack. XML external entities. So basically it is related to XML data. So first of all, what is XML? XML is extensible markup language, which is generally used to structure the data and transfer. So this is the use of XML. There is an attack. There is an attack which is occurring using XML is XXE attacks. So it is like taking advantages with the XML data. So these attacks actually occur because XML is generally having a lot of sorry XML is actually having a lot of dangerous function which is been enabled by default. And as a developer, as an engineer, everyone should actually disable it in order to prevent those attacks. But many fail to do that, and attacker can easily manipulate the XML queries and get advantages to the attack. Sorry, and get advantages to the datas. And so everyone would be knowing the word like parser, right? So parser is something like it will decode the data which is sent in a structured format. So XML is also sent in a structured format, and they are having some certain functions which will actually directly access into the server, and sensitive files can be fetched through those queries. If the parser is not knowing about the sensitive data and something, the application would be vulnerable for the XSC attacks. So this seemed to be slightly a complicated attack. That is why this has been listed in top 10. And if you are actually held in bug bounties, you can concentrate on XML entity attacks, because you can find a lot of bugs on this category. So next we'll be going under broken access control. So basically, what is access control? Access is like giving permission to access something. So generally, it is what that means. And broken access control is like providing access, but it is of no use. Like this photo suggests there is a gate, but there is no fence available. So basically, this is useless, right? That is what the name suggests. Broken access control, improper permission controlling. So this is actually a critical bug under application. Like this at broken access control undergo comes under the attacks like session token tampering, IDOR, IDOR, which is actually like indirect object reference, privilege escalation, and course. These are the attacks which comes under broken access control, and there are many other attacks too. Session token tampering is like some application won't properly verify the session tokens, and it will be giving access to unauthorized people, and it will lead in leaking of sensitive data. So IDOR is like uh, the possibility of getting the CERD permission. Many will be knowing about CERD, right? Create, update, read, delete operations. So if access control is not properly controlled, um, uh, a different user can change your data or something. It is like that. One second. Under the privilege escalation attacks, there are two kind of privilege escalation. It is horizontal escalation and vertical escalation. So sometimes you can impersonate as a let's take two users A and B. A can impersonate as B, and this comes under horizontal privilege escalation. And user A can impersonate as admin, which is like vertical privilege escalation. So if the access control is not properly controlled, it will be like unauthorized access will be given to the accounts. ORS is like cross-origin resource sharing. So basically, according to the build of the browser, so according to the build of the browser, a browser could only send the request, but cannot read the response of a cross origin unless it is having permission. If the permission is given to all the websites, and it actually leads to cross origin resource policy being improperly implemented in that particular application, which is also comes under the access control, broken access control category. So next we could go into security misconfiguration. It will be like most of the website will be using add-on services in applications. It might be anything like if a if a developer wants to make his work easy, he'll be he'll be adding up third party service which is actually helping them in implementing a feature easily. In order of doing that, he should properly configure the settings so that there is no security vulnerabilities could arise. Misconfiguration arises due to enabling of unnecessary features, using of default accounts and default passwords, and some of the developers fail to properly handle the errors. It would be leaking the stack traces, error messages, which will be highly useful for an attacker to find what is actually going in the background. Failing to implement the security features. So if you properly implement the security features, these kind of attacks can be highly prevented. And when implementing a third party service, it is necessary to properly update the service and properly configure it. So failing to update the service also comes under misconfiguration, because lots of vulnerabilities are found every day, and patches are being released. So as a developer, as a administrator of application, he must actually update the services which are running. So this comes under the topic of misconfigurations. So then it will be so cross-site scripting. It is also it is also a kind of injection attack. So it is like injecting a plain site script into the browser. So there are a lot of scripting languages available. Mostly excesses occurs with the language called JavaScript, where a attacker injects a JavaScript into the browser so that it gives some information which is advantageous to the attacker. XSS attacks comes under three types. So one will be reflected XSS, stored XSS, and DOM XSS. Reflected XSS is like it is non-persistent attack. So attacker will be sending the script, and victim will be fooled and will be made to open the particular page or something to get affected. In a stored XSS attack, a script is being stored in the application somewhere where it is not getting properly sanitized or something, so that attacker can take advantages for the people who are actually entering to that particular page. And there is also another type of XSS called DOM XSS. DOM is like document object model. If you learn about JavaScript, you would be familiar about this model. So it is like user controllable data being displayed in the applications. Some of them will render without proper sanitization of inputs, which will actually lead into uh, execution of that script and advantages to the hacker or the attacker. These kind of attacks can be mitigated using CSRF tokens, so that if a CSRF token is invalid, the request would not be sent, and the proper implementing of sanitization will also help in preventing these attacks. So this is actually about the cross-site scripting. So next will be under insecure decentralization. So it is actually about the process of serialization and deserialization. Generally, when there is a complex data structure, it is made into a simpler format through the process called serialization. And the process of and the process of making the simple data into the complex structure format is called deserialization. Yes, through this process, application can easily send the bytes and receive the bytes. So generally, what developers think that if a data is serialized, in between people could not deserialize it and tamper, and many fail to actually implement the necessary verification processes and access controls. So, in an insecure deserialization, attacker would be able to deserialize a serialized data, and then actually implement the sorry and then actually he could tamper the user controllable data and get advantages to the application. So this is kind of a complicated attack, but actually it is highly vulnerable, because many of the developer mentioned actually is like they're thinking that serialized data cannot be deserialized. It is only when serialization is done properly. At that time, it is hard to get deserialized, but generally, it is possible to deserialize the data if it is happening insecurely. So next attack will be using the components with known vulnerabilities. So we build applications, we are using lot of additional components to implement lot of features, and on daily basis there are thousands of vulnerabilities which is arising daily, and thousands of vulnerabilities which is getting actually patched daily. And we can say in general that every technology has a vulnerable function in some means, which should be patched, or should be taken necessary steps to prevent get taking it as advantage. So so using of components with known vulnerabilities, we know that many bugs are being publicly released, and there are lot of automated tools available to find that if the component is vulnerable or not. If if the tool suggests it is vulnerable, it is highly recommended that to go with the proper mitigation, or try to prevent using that, so that you are safe enough, so that the application would not get affected of any kind of attackers. This will be the uh, actually this is one of highly affected bugs, because many used highly vulnerable services. Many think that many company owners think that upgrading existing source code seems to be a hectic to them and huge loss in budget. But it should be actually done because the source code could be built some months back or some years back, and all the technology should have got updated. So it is necessary to put some budget on the upgrades and work on them so that these kind of attacks can be mitigated well. So finally, coming to the last vulnerability is like this is not actually a vulnerability. It is like a feature which should be done under organization. Every organization should properly monitor their traffic, should properly log their traffic, so that logging is actually a very useful process. Let's take organization is getting attacked by a user. When there is a log of traffic, it is easy to analyze the traffic and find why the attack actually happened and who tried to attack and who tried to intrude into the organization. This would this process would be easily found if the logging and monitoring process is done properly. So, so this is what this last one suggests. So basically, these are the basic walkthrough about the top 10 vulnerabilities. Each are having its own histories on their bugs. Yeah, you can go into your own research and learn lot about that, so that it will be interesting to you in many ways. So some of the tips is like you could actually access the practice lab or vulnerable machines to understand the vulnerability and find how it works. Always keep an habit of having your own notes and properly update it whenever you read something new. You can read different blogs, write-ups, and get new ideas like how other people are approaching. So you will get that only when you are reading up more. Also, you get engaged with lot of people who are in community, so that you get to know about new things easily. And if you get a complicated issue or a complicated misunderstanding related to vulnerabilities, you can directly contact them and find the right solution, so that they will know a lot of people who could actually help you in. And finally, keep a habit of sharing your knowledges with others, so that it is actually useful when you are sharing it with others. They will also share with you their own methods and own techniques, so that it is like helping the community well. So this is the basic walkthrough about the OWASP top 10, and I put this under open for questions so that you can clear it. So any questions? Am I audible?
Yes, bro. Yes, you're audible.
Okay, okay. So if you have any question, you can go ahead and ask.
Abhishek, can you show any demo on any of these top 10 so that they may be aware? It can be any POCs that you may have already reported or anything available publicly. You can even search how to do Google Doc, and that would be really helpful since we have time.
Okay, let me show one of my write-ups. One sec.
Practical demo is also appreciated if you can.
Okay, let me try to show up one of my write-up, and I will explain it in detail. Just a minute, I'm looking for that. So let me present my screen. So I actually said about the post error injection um, in the first injection attack. Let me explain it to the. So sorry, actually, I have a cough. So these are the requests actually happening from this developer.mozilla.org. Can you, is that visible actually?
Yes, yes, yes. We can see.
Okay. So when you get into a website, there's a request sent. So there is a request sent.
Hey
So
Abhishek bro, like it's not visible I think. Like are you showcasing the like request and response pages?
inspect element is visible, right? I'm showing that only.
No.
It is not
No,
visible.
only the MDN web docs pages we can see.
Okay, one second. I will share my whole screen. So is that visible now?
Yeah, yes, it's visible.
So when a request is sent, there will be headers like this. So basically, application works under request and response. It is like a hotel server. When we need a food, we just call the server and ask for the food, and he will get the food from the hotel and return it to you. So website also works like that only. When you request for something, the server will help in fetching the requested data. So when you are requesting something, there are two parts in a request, which is a header and request body. One sec, I will see if I can show them. So only header is actually still here. So let's take the host header. It is not getting listed here. Okay. One second. So mm, so actually, so Google Inspect element is not showing the host header actually. So when you request for a website, the request will go like get method, which is going to fetch some resource, and the host is actually the target website. So what a attacker will do that is he will actually change this example.com into something like attacker.com or something, so that the response to this request will be sent to this particular domain, and he could actually take advantages if the if the shared resources if the shared resource contains some sensitive data or something. In this way, host header injection is working. Then I can show you one of my write-up so that you. So, so this is one of my write-up where I took the information of the user, which is actually leading to take over his account. So this will fall under the category of the sensitive data exposure. So all the sensitive data which is necessary to take over the account is actually leaking. That application was actually leaking them. So I did not give any POCs here. So what the site was doing was when we request password change, basically a link will be sent to your email ID with the necessary token to identify yourself. But what the particular site was doing is that the target link was just visible in the particular response, so that I can just copy it and use it for changing the passwords. And this was one of the bugs which I found through sensitive data exposure. So many would be knowing about CSRF. CSRF is like cross-site request forgery. Whenever a browser is can send any request but cannot read response if there is no course policy. So while sending request, there is a token additionally added, which is called as CSRF token, which is actually added to prevent lot of attacks. So this was a site where I actually tried to impersonate the CSRF token. So you can see that this image shows a CSRF token, right? Here it is. So you will be able to get the user CSRF token. This would be a bug bounty tip, okay? CSRF token can be taken for a targeted user from a forget password feature, because many of the developers implement CSRF token to that particular function also. Sometimes the token used in forget password also gets validated in an internal authorized accounts also. So this particular website was actually like that. I got the attacker's CSRF token from the forget password feature, and actually I was able to change the password of the attack. Sorry, I was actually able to change the password of the victim and take over his account. It was another attack which was found by me, and this is also a practical scenario. Mm, is this okay? Let me open it up for questions. Like only 15 minutes. If anyone has any doubts on the explanation, you can go ahead. So, okay, I think everyone is clear.
Abhishek, bro, I'm having one doubt.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Is there is any possibility for someone is uploading their files into the website? If the website is asking someone to upload your file, if they are uploading their malware into the file, it will affect the server. Is there is any possibility?
So actually, when uploading, actually there is some bugs related to upload file functionality. whenever there is a upload file functionality, there will be a check that what kind of file is that, and it will be necessarily checked, and then only it will get into uploaded into a server. And even after uploading that, it is a question mark that will that get executed into the internal server or something. It is actually a question mark that um, there is a possibility, but it is not possible on all the cases. There will be a check when there is a upload file functionality.
So how can we prevent those kinds of files, images?
When there is a upload file functionality, you should necessarily check what kind of file has been attached. Let's 1 second. I will share my whole screen. So Notepad is visible, right? So let's take, there is a image called JPG. So when uploading a profile picture, this file can be accepted, but it should not be blindly accepted. There are some ways to check that if the image is actually a JPG image or some other thing. So basically, to find that, you can find it using this kind of techniques. So each image will be converted in a, when you review a image in its format, each image or each file will be having a certain signature. So for a JPEG file, this is the particular signature. If it is not a JPEG file, the signature will be different, and through this you can find a file if it is JPEG or not. And this can also be tampered. Actually, this is also one of a check which should be implemented when you are having a upload file functionality. So you can get my point, right?
Yeah, I got your point. If the images is means we can do this. If any files like WordPad, something we are uploading some CVs also. That's it.
So yeah, when you are uploading something, you should properly check what is getting uploaded. So any more questions?
Yeah, Abhishek, what is meant by insecure deserialization? Actually, I've missed something. Could you please give me a quick thing about
Yeah,
insecure
yeah.
deserialization?
So actually, this comes under the process of serialization and deserialization. When there is a complex data, actually there is a process called serialization which will be happening, which will turn that complex data into a simpler data, so that it is useful for sending that in stream of bytes. It will be sent and through the deserialization process, the simple bytes which is being transferred will be deserialized to get the to restore the older format. So this is the process of serialization and deserialization. So developers think that once the data gets serialized, it cannot be deserialized in between by attacker or someone. But in insecure deserialization, the serialized data can be deserialized, and values can be changed to take the advantages of the application. And this is how this attack works.
Okay, thank you for that. And what are the possible attack scenarios we can do it in using the insecure deserialization?
So actually, this is mainly involved on inputs which is given by the users. So
Okay.
user controllable inputs are sent into this object, which is getting serialized and being sent and getting deserialized. In between, if the security checks are not properly implemented, it can be serialized at a place in between. Malicious input could be placed in, and advantages could be taken through them.
Okay, thank you, man.
So any others? Do you have any more questions?
So can you explain me about DOM-based accesses in a quicker manner?
Yeah. So
Uh,
actually, one say. So DOM is basically called as document object model. It has been latestly used in lot of frameworks, right? There are frameworks called React, Angular, like there are lot of frameworks, right? They will be rendering dynamically the user inputted data. When they are getting rendered, it should be actually sanitized properly and should be rendered in a way that it is not going to execute any kind of malicious scripts or something, so that this attack can be prevented. uh, this is the basic idea of DOM based attacks.
okay. So which means whatever the thing attacker is giving as an input, that will be stored under some DOM.
Yeah. So
Okay.
let's take there is a form in a HTML page, and
Okay.
it is having an ID of A or something, and JavaScript will be using the particular value by get element by ID, I guess. So it will be taking the value from the form. When this process has been done in improperly, there's a possibility that a script is also getting executed through the rendering process. So this
Okay.
will,
So this DOM will not play any role in server side, right? So it will be play only in the browser side level only.
yeah. Down is
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Abhishek.
yeah. Okay. Someone is raising their hands. Please go ahead.
Hi Abhishek,
Hi.
thank you for presenting today. Well, I have a doubt.
Yeah, you can.
When you told about BAC, if I'm not wrong, broken access control, right?
Yeah,
You said something called session tokens and cross origin.
yeah.
What are those actually? I couldn't be able to understand a single word about it. Can you please explain it for
Okay.
me?
So okay, let me take this. So basically, a browser. So let's take I'm using Google Chrome, and this is the browser which I'm using actually. So when a browser could actually send any kind of request, but cannot actually read the response unless it is having course availability. Let me explain course. So course is like a website will be sending a request to a domain and can get response if it is their own domain. But if it is a cross domain, like if a.com is fetching from b.com, on this case, b.com should have a policy to share its resources to A. This should be manually implemented from the source code level to give the access to the a.com domain in order to read the response. So to actually do that, there is a header called allow. One sec, where is it? So this is what the header is. Allow control allow origin. This will be set to a particular domain in order to prevent course. If it is set to star, it is actually vulnerable that any kind of domain can actually fetch the resource. According to the browser built, none of the cross domain can read the response. If this header is available, it can read. If there is sensitive data, it is going to get leaked. Like I will be sending this request to I will be generating this request from your mobile phone or from your browser. If this particular header is actually present in the targeted site, I can actually get to know about the response which is actually visible to you only, and I can take those data from your site. So this is about course, and the session token is like whenever you would have seen that every applications have logins, right? And it is we cannot go and log in for each and every pages, right? To avoid this process, after a login there is a unique string which is given to a user, and it is stored in the local browser, so that further fetching of resources will be done with the help of those session token, which will help us identifier that you are the authorized person accessing the data. So this is about the session token. Hope you understand those words now.
Yeah, a little bit. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Abhishek, regarding the CORS,
Yeah.
so when we try to change that allow origin header,
Yeah.
if it is not going to happen, suppose I'm taking some request, in that request it is in google.com. So if I'm changing to some bing.com, but in the response it is not printing the header, but instead of that, the allow origin header, if it is shows wildcard, which is a star, so
Yeah.
will be a issue, or we can say it is an informational?
On authentication case, let's say if it is a authenticated website, like it needs cookies or session tokens for authentication, there should be an additional header should also be available. That is like allow credentials true. I'll say.
Yes.
So it should be also available in the response. Only then you can fetch the response. If it is a site like which is rendering dynamically, if it doesn't have those, if it doesn't have that credentials true, it is they cannot actually get the authenticated response. It will not give actually. I guess it will.
Okay, so if there is a thing called true, if it is not there, we can't able to get the authenticated
Yeah,
data from that
it should
particular
be
response.
it should be set to
Yeah.
true in order to get.
Okay. And the thing is, like, if we try to change by default itself, some application will pass that header. So with the corresponding is domain name. So
Yeah.
if I'm changing the domain name to some other domain name, in the response it has to be printed, right? Allow origin should be like
So
something. If I'm
sometimes
changing to,
actually to implement security measures, they wantedly hide this header. Sometimes
okay,
this occurs. They try to tamper this name. Actually, Apache itself giving functions to change the names, because so that it is an additional security feature on their application. Like attacker won't know what server is being used by the target application. So they also tamper these names. They sometimes hide this header, so that even though there is a wild card,
mm,
it will hide. They will be hiding it, so that sometimes you may miss it, or they will actually implement the required feature and hide it then also.
so you're saying that it is purposefully done by their end to hide uh,
Yeah. Sometimes,
the
sometimes
site
they
name in the
purposely hide
response.
it.
Okay. So yeah, got it. But the question is still vulnerable, or we can say it is an informational only?
So if it is a wild card without credentials to, at most case it will be not useful. If both are available with the wild card, means it is vulnerable. Then you can
Okay,
actually test it by yourself itself.
okay. If it is allow credentials set to true and also displaying the wildcard means it is seems to be vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
So
Actually,
what kind of
most of the course vulnerabilities are been prevented, because to get advantage of of this vulnerability, you should actually send a post request using XML HTTP format from your end. But actually, there is a method called options header.
Mm.
it will be checked if there is a course allowing or not. So actually the check is already implemented in the XML HTTP request. So on the cases of post record, you will be not able to, even though site has a wildcard with the credentials true, you will be not able to actually send the request because XML HTTP will be preventing. This
Okay,
is the
okay,
additional security mechanism which was implemented in recent days.
okay, got it. So what will be the severity for this?
Severe, it is depending upon the data which is going to be accessible.
Okay.
Anyone else has any questions to ask?
Yeah, team, can we get the recorded session of this? Can we get the recorded session?
Yeah, sure, bro. Like we'll post in our handles.
Okay.
If you are in a Telegram group, we'll share the link there also.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so shall we end this session? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So you
Thank
can
you.
follow me up in social media, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and I
So
will.
Abhishek, if I want to contact you in which medium apart from this,
You can get
in
me
LinkedIn?
in contact within Instagram. I will be active
Oh,
there. So
okay.
thanks for Web community for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhishek. Thank you. It was a wonderful session. Being a first year student in this, you have been contributed a lot to this InfoSec community. It was a wonderful session. You answered all the questions. Okay, thank you for joining, everyone. Thank you all the listeners and participants. Also, like to be saying to the final, this was a final event in the Know How series. It was we are like in passing for a while, and we'll be continuing. We'll coming up with a new event in the future. Do support us. Thank you everyone for joining today. Do follow all the handles. Also fill the feedback form. If you have any positive feedback or negative feedback, please let us know in the feedback form. It will be helping more us to help more. Thank you everyone for joining today.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you guys. Sudhakar bro, you can